So I have been using this all new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra from quite a few days now, and in fact this is one device that shocked me after I started to use this device. And when I compared this device with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, that is another device that I'm using alongside of the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, I was just surprised to see that how much difference it is in between of both of the smartphones and how far Samsung has really come with this Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. In fact, the differences between these devices are so much so that one time I wanted to edit a video on my Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra versus I also try to edit the same video on my iPhone 16 Pro Max, and I was changing something particularly because I wanted to edit this particular shot on this iPhone 16 Pro Max where I took a video on my DSLR a few days ago and my face was not particularly well exposed, and I wanted to try if I can use the multi-mode scene feature on the CapCut to be able to edit my face on that, but I was not able to do the very same thing on the CapCut on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And after a few minutes I started to see that this iPhone 16 Pro Max, it started to get very hot, and when I tried the very same thing on something like the Beauty Plus application, again something that is not very appropriate, but I just wanted to test and see if I can get some meaningful results out of this iPhone 16 Pro Max or no. And to my surprise, after even 2 hours, I was not able to apply the multi-mode scene feature where I could just adjust the face tone on my video. And after 2 hours, I just started to see that this phone was very much unbearable to hold, and I had to switch off my phone and keep it under rest for some time. And I also tried to do the very same thing a few other times as well with not a very much success. But when I tried the very same thing with the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, it was just instant, and I was able to get the results between, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes, and that was just a surprise to me that how good of a device the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is. But in this video, I just particularly want to talk about a lot of hardware and the software improvements, because yes, the number one thing is really the software improvements on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and in fact it is way much better than what we are getting on this iOS 18 update on this iPhone 16 Pro Max. Now, when I say about the software update, I mean to say the general UI on this latest update on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, it feels just way much more refined, even though it does copy a few elements on the iOS 18 with the new updated lock screen. I would still say so that it is a better implementation in my opinion. But also, if we talk about all the AI madness and all the AI stuff that is happening in the market, Apple did try to bring a lot of AI features on their iPhones as well, but at the same time they did break a lot of things on this iOS 18 update, and which is something that I'm not very proud of. Again, I'm on the latest iOS 18.3 update as of filming this video, and the things are just not fixed for me. At least I see a lot of stutters on this iPhone after this update. Also, I see a lot of times when I'm using any application on this iPhone, it just stutters, it just stuck, and I cannot even go to another application. And again, restarting the phone is one of the options to fix that issue, or maybe force close that application, or maybe just going to another application and coming back to the one where I was working on to be able to fix the same issue. I get a lot of network drops on this iPhone 16 Pro Max. That is another big bubble for me. And also, because of all these new AI features, again, I want to use them, but most of the times they are not the perfect implementations. For example, the smart reply thing in the email application on this iPhone 16 Pro Max, it might sound to be a very good feature, but most of the times it just does not work the way that it is intended to, and most of the times the replies are just not very accurate. And in fact, a lot of times when you try to use the writing tools on this iPhone, the application just crashes on you, and that is not a good experience in my opinion. And also, I noticed that when using Siri or setting Siri to the new one on this iPhone, it defaults back to what is the original old Siri on this iPhone. That is again one thing that I do not like. It says that there is a country mismatch on this iPhone, but I do not agree. It just defaults it to a different country, and I just do not know why. Now, another thing on this iPhone is that I like a few other AI features on this iPhone, just like when the call recording feature is turned on, the other person is notified as well, which is great. I also like the prioritized notification feature on this iPhone as well, which keeps a lot of things a lot more cleaner, and it just prioritizes the notification according to your work schedule, or maybe you are in a gym or something. So yes, This is one feature that I do like because of this reduced interruptions that is included into this thing. And also I've noticed a few less spam calls on this iPhone. That is one thing that I really appreciate Apple fixing the spam call situation on these iPhones, which is great as well. But one another thing that I liked on this iPhone is the inclusion of this action button, and particularly I just do not like this camera control button on this iPhone. It could be useful but not in the best possible way. And also the magic eraser on these iPhones, it does not work perfectly, and most of the times it just tries to redraw the thing that is already not there. And if it also fixes it, it does not fix it in the best possible manner versus what you have got on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, where the implementation is a bit more cleaner and you can also move the subject around, which is one thing that I liked about the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra as to the AI features. But there are other AI features on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, just like the live translation feature. That is something that has been carried forward from the last year, but it is a better implementation, and most of the time the replies are just very much accurate on this Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. But also the writing tools on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is also better, and most of the times when I want to get a summary out of something, or if I want to rewrite something on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, it is a better implementation. And also this Bixby feature that is combined with Gemini is also a good one, because most of the times when you want to search something on Google, you can use Gemini. You can also use this AI select feature to draw a circle over something, to use features like the drawing assist feature, or to simply save the selected portion as an image, or use it as a generative edit feature to create a new image. Or maybe if you want to summarize the text, that is another thing that you can do with AI select versus this visual lookup feature on this iPhone 16 Pro Max. That is a good implementation but not the best one. It is a combination of ChatGPT and the Google search, and most of the times it does not even give you the accurate results, which is one thing that is a bummer. And some of the information is shared with ChatGPT, and this is one thing that I do not like about the iPhones. I know a lot of information is shared with the Gemini as well on the Google smartphones too, and that is the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra in this case. But you can just turn everything off on both of these devices, and again, something that you just need to keep in mind while searching anything on these smartphones. Now another thing is that the Samsung smartphones, they do come with a 7 years of OS update support versus 5-year one on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. That is one thing that is again a deciding factor. I think so 7 years is just a long enough time, and I do not even think so that people do keep these smartphones for that long. But one thing that is a bummer for me on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is that a lot of AI features that are baked onto this device, they would not be available as a free tier version after 20 years, which I think takes us away from the original purpose of giving 7 years of OS support on these smartphones. But also one thing that I do not like about this iPhone 16 Pro Max is that a lot of the features on these latest iPhones are just gimmicks, just like making a new emoji, and I do not think so that a lot of people have time to create a new emoji every time. And also using the playground feature is not something that is particularly very useful on these iPhones. And again, we have got similar features on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra as well, but they are not really shouting out loud on these features. Rather than they are just focusing on the features that are useful and the ones that really does make a lot of difference. For example, there is also this feature in the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra to remove the background noise from the videos, and again, it works better than what I can really do on this iPhone 16 Pro Max. And also it can pretty much edit any video that is there in my gallery. So yes, I think so it is just a win-win for me at least. Now the next thing that I want to discuss in this video is the hardware upgrades on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra versus what we have got on this iPhone 16 Pro Max. Now if you look at visually, I do not think so that there is much improvement between the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra and the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, or maybe the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra and so on. And that is again exactly the same thing that we can see on the iPhone 16 Pro Max as well. That is visually the same one as what we saw with iPhone 15 Pro Max from the last year. But I think so I do like the way that Samsung has tweaked their flagship model, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and they do get to look a bit more like iPhones in my opinion. I think so I love the rounded edges on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra along with the squared off edges on this device. That does make it a bit more comfortable to hold in the hand versus the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra that was not a very comfortable smartphone to hold in my opinion. But also Samsung did shuffle off a bit of weight on the Samsung Galaxy S25 S25 Ultra, and it is a bit lighter than the iPhone 16 Pro Max while retaining the same screen size, that is 6.9 inches on both of the smartphone. Samsung has got this all new Gorilla Glass Armor 2 on the front of the device, but something that is a standout feature on the Samsung device is this anti-reflective coating on this new Samsung smartphones, and it is again much better than what we have got on the latest iPhone. And also the 6.9 inches display on the Samsung smartphones, it is a bit brighter one at 2600 nits versus a 2000 nits of peak brightness on what we have got on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So yes, again I think so it is just a subtle improvement, but the one that would just make a lot of difference for people who love to use their smartphone in the outdoor environment. I think so Samsung has just done a very good job with this anti-reflective coating along with a 2600 nits of peak brightness, which is amazing. But one another thing that I do not like about the Samsung smartphone is the way that they did not do anything to the back design of the cameras on this smartphone. I just wanted it to be a bit more different than what we had on the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, but sadly it is not the case, and I think so I just do not like these ugly big rings on the back of this smartphone. But one thing that I do appreciate about the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is this new silver blue color that does change the color when you just tilt it at different angles in the direct sunlight or maybe in any light source. But also I love this silver titanium frame on this device versus what we have got on this iPhone 16 Pro Max as the flagship color. I know that these smartphones also come in a variant with the silver color of the titanium finish, but again, it is not a flagship color, and I just wanted Apple to innovate and bring a flagship color on the smartphone that just looks as good as what we see on this Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Now, one point that I want to give to Apple over here is that Apple did include some extra buttons on their device, just like the camera control button and the action button on this iPhone 16 Pro Max, versus Samsung removing things on their smartphones, just like removing the Bluetooth functionality on the S Pen. And again, I just agree with Samsung that a lot of people do not use the Air feature, but on the other hand, a lot of people do use the Bluetooth functionality on this S Pen to be able to take a photograph or to be able to use it as a remote shutter or something. But I just love the way that Samsung used to do the things in the past, and removing a lot of things on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra was just not the best thing. Also, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, just like the iPhone 16 Pro Max, they both come with IP68 rating. I think so that the battery on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is about 5000 mAh versus about 4685 mAh on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Again, the charging is faster on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra at about 45 watt versus 27 watt of fast charging on this iPhone 16 Pro Max. So yes, you can see that who is a winner over here. And also I noticed that the battery on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, it does last a bit more longer than what we have got on this iPhone 16 Pro Max. That is all due to this all new Snapdragon X8 Gen Elite processor that does do a lot of lifting on this smartphone, but also it does help with a lot of other AI improvements on the device as well, versus what we have got on this iPhone 16 Pro Max is also a good one, but just because of a poor implementation of the GUI on this iOS 18 update, it just does make everything a bit more worse in my opinion. And I just think so when we progress towards the iOS 19 update until we get the, I would say, the iPhone 17 series over here, I think so that is the point when Apple would be able to iron out everything on these smartphones. But till that time, let us just discuss about the cameras on both of the smartphones, because I genuinely think so that the cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra are a bit more better than what we had from the past year, and that is again all due to this all new image signal processing that we have got with the Snapdragon 8 X Gen Elite processor on these new smartphones, that does make the AI improvements on this device for a better good versus what Apple is using on their iPhones. And I think so that Apple cameras are generally better than the Samsung smartphones, but this time I do believe so that Samsung has just got very close to what these iPhones are really able to do. And the first thing that Samsung updated to achieve the very same thing is this updated 50 megapixel camera sensor, that is an ultra wide one on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, that also acts as a macro camera lens. And in most of the results that what I tested from this camera system, I can say so that the macro photography on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is better than what we have got on this iPhone 16 Pro Max. That was a big surprise to me. But also I noticed that whenever taking a video or a photograph from Instagram or Snapchat on this device, the results are better on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and that was again a big surprise to me. But in most of the low lighting condition, even though that the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is better than the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, but it just does not compete the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and that is again one of the saddest part about this camera upgrade. I think so I should just give some time to Samsung to improve the algorithms and make their camera a bit more better than what it is right now, especially in the low lighting conditions. But I think so that it is a very close match. Now, one thing that I was surprised to see on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra was that even though that it has got a better telephoto camera sensor than what we have got on this iPhone 16 Pro Max, the iPhone 16 Pro Max just excelled in the low lighting conditions versus the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra that did not do very well. But one thing where Samsung excelled was that when you do a zoom shot in the daylighting condition, I think so that the amount of details that you are able to get because of the new AI algorithms on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, it is just way much more better than what you are able to get with this iPhone 16 Pro Max, and that is just a joy to see as well. Now, one thing that I want to mention over here is that the photograph size as what you are able to get out of this Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is a bit too large in comparison to that what you get on this iPhone 16 Pro Max. I think so that Apple just nailed it to make sure that the images are coming out good, and at the same time the image size is not just like 5 megabyte or 10 megabyte or 20 megabyte, because this is particularly what we are able to get on the Samsung smartphone, which is a sad part. And the default camera setting is not at 200 megapixel one. I think so it shoots at about 12 megapixel or 50 megapixel as a default mode. That is again one thing that I do not like about the Samsung smartphone. I think so that Apple is able to retain more of the stuff and more of the detail on this iPhone 16 Pro Max, even with a lower shot, and also at the same time it does also record a live video or a preview of the image that you took out of this iPhone versus what you're able to get out of the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. And one more thing is that the action mode on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is not as good as what you're able to get on this iPhone. And also I think so I could be wrong about that. I think so that the front camera on this iPhone, it does have some kind of optical image stabilization versus the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra that does rely on the electronic image stabilization on the front camera. But I noticed that the images on the front camera on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra were a bit more natural, a bit more near to the tone that you would expect in the real life on the Samsung smartphones versus what you get on this iPhone 16 Pro Max. But one another thing that I noticed on this Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is that sometimes it does add some detail to your face or maybe whatever image that you are taking, and those details, they do not really existed at the first place, and that could be one thing to either love or hate about the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Now, one another thing that Samsung did add to their latest GUI is the inclusion of this all new Portrait Studio mode that is very similar to having a D-pad on this iPhone. That is the latest and the greatest software update that what we got on these iPhones. But again, the idea is the same, that you can change the hue, the color or other color element on the image itself. And the way that you do on the Samsung smartphones is that instead of having a D-pad to do the very same thing, you have got different sliders on this Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra to achieve the very same thing. But a few other features that I liked about the Samsung smartphone is the inclusion of this best face feature that is really a savior. Whenever you take a shot and the face is blurry, it can just replace it with the next possible one. Maybe it can search into your gallery, or maybe it just takes multiple scenarios of the same photograph and it will just give you that what is the best face that it can be replaced with. But also now we can shoot in the log format on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. That was one feature that was missing on the Samsung smartphones from the longest time. But the idea is that you can choose to shoot in log on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and later on you can just choose from the white color gamut to be able to change the way that you just want the video to look like. And that is one thing that I exactly like about the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. But also you can shoot natively on 8K recording on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. That is one feature that is not available on this iPhone 16 Pro Max. And that pretty much wraps up the camera department on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra versus this iPhone 16 Pro Max, but I genuinely think so that the camera department that what we are getting with the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is much more improved, and a lot of times I noticed that the details are a bit more better on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, and also the shadows are retained much more better on the Samsung smartphone versus its iPhone 16 Pro Max, and that is a new thing for me, and that is what I do not expect out of the Samsung smartphones. And well, with that said, that was all that what I wanted to share in this video. But in my opinion, I genuinely think so that this iPhone 16 Pro Max is really a very good device, but the only thing that keeps me away from recommending this device is just because of a poor software on this device versus what we have got on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, that is much more of a refined device in my opinion. Well, that was all about this video. My name is Anshul. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.